Hello, welcome. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's good to see some familiar faces. My name's Maria Marquis. I'm joined by my fabulous colleague, Justin. And as you can see, we are wearing the same shirt today, which was completely accidental, but we're pretty excited about it. So hopefully everybody has put on their striped shirt for today's Formula Fitness session.
We need to make some
Those
t-shirts
of
that
you
say concatenate.
Yes, concatenate this is, and then put some like grids here, so we're just like tables, totally. So for those of you who haven't ever met Justin or myself, we're just gonna do a quick intro so you know who we are. My name's Maria Marquis. Here at Coda, I focus on customer education and empowerment. I also just consider myself the cheerleading officer in chief, so the CCO here in this case. Just love to celebrate our makers and our customers. Justin, you want to introduce yourself to the group so they know who you are?
Sure, yeah. My name is Justin. I'm a solutions architect here at Coda. I work a lot with folks inside the team and outside the team, helping them build docs that are beautiful and functional and help your team. So really excited to dive into one of my favorite formulas today of all time.
Excellent. And actually, I have to give credit where credit is due. Justin was the first person to think of this Formula Fitness idea. We did it internally, and I thought it was just so awesome and cool that I wanted to make sure we did it for our customers. Have to cite my sources here today. Just so everybody knows how today's Justin, I always have a good time together too, which is always good. So those of you who have never attended one of our crowdcasts, here's how it's going to work. At any point in time today, if you've got a question, we want to know about it. So there's the chat field over there on the right side of your screen, which you can use at any point in time. Questions, comments, emotional outbursts, that's for you. If you do have a question, though, you can post it there to chat, but the best way to make sure that we don't lose it is by using the Ask a Question button along the bottom of our screen. Hey, Karina, how are you? Welcome. So good to see you. Using that Ask a Question area is going to be a great place to make sure that we don't lose it. You can also upvote and downvote questions. So if you have the same one as somebody else, that's a great way to do it. So those are both open and available for you at any point in time today. Now I'm going to share my screen because we've got this fabulous Formula Fitness doc, which we will be sharing at the end of our session today so that everybody can have access to that. Justin, can you see my screen okay? Is it coming through?
Absolutely. Yep.
Fab. Amazing. So today's formula that we're going to be digging into is called concatenate, which I think is a really great Scrabble word, number one, if you can get on a couple double and triple word scores. And it sounds really, really fancy. But the thing about concatenate is that it's actually quite simple in and of itself, but it can be used in a lot of different ways. So let's just get clear, first of all, on what concatenate is. What concatenate is the way for you to put a bunch of things together. So you can decide it can be 2 things, 3 things, 4 things, 5 things, 6 things, on and on and on. But it allows you to combine them into a new unit. So you can combine text, you can combine references, you can combine table data, you can combine other formulas, but it's a way for you to create something new out of a whole list. The way I like to think about it is it's kind of like a sandwich, right? The sandwich is made up of a lot of different individual things: bread, a tomato, mustard, salami, now I'm getting hungry, lettuce, etc. And all of those things can exist by themselves, right? I could just start eating some salami, but I can also put them together into a sandwich to create something new that fills in a new need. Justin, when you think about concatenate, sort of how would you position it, or what do you think is really important for folks who are just starting to get to know this formula that they should understand about what this is?
Yeah, I love the sandwich analogy. That's how I think about it too. Actually, I was curious. I was curious what concatenate actually means. I looked it up before this, and in English, it doesn't really make very much sense.
Ooh.
But if you're a a romantic language speaker, so Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, actually, like probably makes more sense to you. It literally means to chain together, and that's all it is. It's just gluing things together side by side. And it sounds scary, but it's actually very simple to do, and it unlocks some very cool use cases, and like literally gives you superpower. So it's definitely one to have in your toolkit. In fact, next time you're gluing something together, just use the word concatenate to impress your friends.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Oh my gosh. I'm also like, since I speak a little bit of Italian, I'm like, ooh, concatenate. That sounds so much better than concatenate. So let's actually take a look at what what this just the structure looks like here. So here we are in the Coda formula builder, and all you need to do to start making this formula is do concatenate, and then notice here it just in our little helper it just says include text, 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 text. So we can open up the details here, and notice we can put any value. This is text, numbers, dates, and also references are valuable too. So it's really just a list. You just put what you want and then a comma, then the next thing, and then a comma, and a next thing, and a comma. So structurally, it's really straightforward. But really, I think where concatenate can come alive is when we start to take a look at some actual formulas here. Because at base level, it's like, all right, it's a list. I'm never going to use that. But we actually find it's one of those that you can use all the time. So one of the things, I just revealed the answer. Oh my goodness. It's all right. We'll be fine.
No peeking.
One of the things that we find we use concatenate for all time is is to make things feel a little bit more customized, and also to sort of allow you to use kind of today's date in different ways. So one of the most common ones that I find all the time is let's create a heading for the notes for today's date. So here, maybe I want to have at the top of my page, notes for, and whatever today is. Now, of course, I could type that myself, but I want to be able to make this happen just automatically. So if we think about concatenate, what we want to do, let's go ahead and right click here. And again, you'll get a copy of this doc so that you're able to work with it by yourself. Notice what we've just put is notes from, and then today. Now, today is a handy little formula. We're doing a whole formula fitness all about date and time as well, where we'll dig into things like today and now. But what this unit does today is just shows today's date. Super handy. I use it all the time. And then we're combining just some text, notes from. And you know that it's text when we put it in quotes. So quotation marks means we're dealing with just basic text with no formula behind it, no references or anything like that. And what I want to highlight is if I were to say notes from and just put it in quotes, notice here we lose that space and it looks kind of sloppy. So when you're dealing with text, it's always important to remember to put spaces in like that. So this is a real basic concatenate formula. Justin, do you want to talk about how you use this, or ways that you've included this in docs that you've built for our customers?
Yeah, this is a very great example to start with. And yeah, like you mentioned, the comma is really your friend here. That's what's going to separate things. When they get longer, the comma is what you look for to see which units are separated from the others. But yeah, this is a great example. I do this all the time as well. Another one I do is I'll build dashboards just on the canvas. So I'll say how many tasks are incomplete, and I'll kind of write that out in a sentence, and then included in there, I'll do a little filter formula, which we've done in a previous formula fitness, and I'll count the number of tasks that are still incomplete, and then it just becomes one sentence, and it's dynamic, so it changes over time as you like update the table. So using it for dashboards is a great use case.
Yeah, and notice you can just put as many commas in as you want, right? So I could say, notes from today. Oh my gosh, it's Tuesday, whatever you want. And notice we've got it all put together here. We can do another space. You can then, of course, have more formulas like that. I love this idea, including a filter formula of going to our blog post table and then filter to the number of tasks that are incomplete. You can combine all of the filters and all of the different formulas that we've been talking about in these sessions together. They're meant to be put together. They're meant to be made into sandwiches, right? So we've got all that going on for us there. So that's one that we see all the time. And you could put that on an email subject line. You could put that on the top of a page. You could put that on a button. This concatenate formula can be put anywhere. Also, just a reminder here today, if you've got questions, we definitely want to know about it. And it looks like we've already got one posted, which is super great. All right, so this is from Karina, which is, can you combine text that you input as well as referenced columns? The answer is yes. Justin, do you want to talk about how we put columns together here and kind of how references can fit in? Or maybe how you've even used it in the past? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get to this in a little bit. But what is great about a table is each row has different data in it. So you build the formula once, and then each row will then kind of stick in or insert their little piece of information into the sentence that you build. So yeah, great question. I think that is very, very much possible. We'll show you how to do that in a little bit.
We're going to build up. So this one, admittedly, super simple and straightforward way of using it, right? We're just using some text and then a simple formula unit, which is this idea of today. But we can get as fancy as we like. So let's keep building on this idea of concatenate. So maybe what we do is we've got a table, and here let's actually just see what this table looks like, where we have a document title, the title of a blog post, and we have an author. And maybe one thing that we want to do is we want to create a byline for each of these, where it's the title by the author, because we want to be able to put these two units of measure together. This, I think, is a really good example of if you had like the first name and the last name of somebody in different columns, but you wanted to be able to put their whole name together. This is the same idea. We're doing it with columns and putting them together. So Karina, I think you might be psychic. So let's actually take a look at how we put this together in the answer. So here we go. We've concatenated Creating an Interactive Calculator by Al Chen. This is also a really great blog post about Excel and Coda, so definitely check it out. And what we did is we just added a formula to this column, and you guessed it, we used concatenate. So in this case, we're concatenating the two columns as well as the word by. So here we're saying, hey, show me the doc title, then by, and notice we have the space here, so that it doesn't say it's all smushed together. And then we're pulling in the author. And since Coda is allowing you to have this across the entire table, it means that each row, like Justin was saying, is going to have only the information for that particular area. So this is a way that you can put those references together. Justin, do you want to talk about how you use this in the docs that you've built, this idea of kind of making a column that's like the super column of several different pieces?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of times, maybe you're faced with a situation where you have some data and you want to clean it up. You mentioned one that's very common is combining first and last names. You could manually copy and paste each one, or you could write a simple concatenate formula that does it for you with one formula. You start to think about when you're dealing with people and names and like companies in a CRM, for example.
Yeah.
Concatenate becomes very important and just such a handy tool, especially, and we'll get to this actually later, when you want to actually craft messages to folks. That's another way to use concatenate in a table, like you've set up here. Actually, Maria, one thing that I might be helpful is let's walk. Can you just erase the formula and build it
Let's totally do
real time? I think it's useful to just see like actually how easy it is to use this formula.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and give ourselves a new fresh start. So when you're in a table, just like when you're in the writing area, just the writing surface, you just type equals to say, yo, Coda, I'm ready to start writing a formula. So now I've got my formula builder open. I'm going to type concatenate, which honestly, typing concatenate is the hardest part of writing this formula for me because I always add an extra C or two. So then what I want to do is I want to put in the doc title. And notice I just started typing doc title, which is the name of this column. And there it is. I can just snag it right from the formula builder. Then I do a comma, which lets Coda know, hey, it's time to show the next part of the sandwich. So I've got my bread. Now I'm going to put the mayonnaise on. So I'll put it in quotes because this is just text, right? I'm going to do space by. And notice I can be checking my work up here at the top. Creating an interactive calculator by. So far, that's looking good to me. Then I do another comma to say, hey, let's go to the next part of this sandwich. And I'm going to say the author. Now notice here, I don't have that good space here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a space after by, just like that. So it allows me to select, and I can see over here in the regular area, oh, great, these are the two pieces that we're working with. If I were to click on that author, it allows me to take a look at that. Same thing for doc title. And then when I press enter, I just then see my result right here. But I'm going to actually go back to the formula builder because I think there's something really helpful to notice. You can always edit it. But notice here down at the bottom, I can always be checking my work before I press enter. Back in the Stone Age, when I was first starting at Coda, this was not possible. You had to press enter to see if you had done it right. But you don't have to do that anymore. And actually, I just noticed something here. This is new to me. You can actually go through each of the rows now and double check what that'll look like across all of your rows, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a great little hidden tip there to go through all the rows.
I just noticed that now. Excellent. Anything else on this idea of like combining different references and columns together, Justin, that you think is helpful for folks to know? Also, Karina, this is exactly what you were looking for. So you'll just be able to use the name of the column and put it together that way. Mhm.
Yeah, no, this is great. Any questions so far? I'll just say, if you have questions, please ping us. This is
Mhm.
kind of the foundation layer that we're building with
Yeah.
Concatenate, and we're going to get into some even more exciting use cases. So I want to make sure everybody's with us.
Yeah, if there's anything that's confusing or if you're unsure, if you just want to double check, please let us know. Great. I'm so glad Karina is like super into this. Yes, great. I always love when we can be psychic. I always find there's like, okay, great, it's still working. So let's take a look at our next exercise here. So again, just building on top of each of these layers. So we've seen how to combine just basic text. We've seen how to combine column information in a table. Now we're going to throw in another building block here, which is a control. So notice here, I've got a control. It's a drop-down menu with some really great adjectives that I use all the time, particularly that first one. I'm going to right-click on this as well. And this is called the adjective control. So we want to know what the name is so we can refer to the name very easily.
And you named that, right, Maria?
I did.
You built the control and named it that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So how I did it is I just typed slash and I chose control just by typing control. And here we go. I chose a select list. Then I just right clicked on it to open up the menu and I chose the name. So I could call this Maria, the control, right? I could call it that. I could call it whatever I want. But yes, that's up to you. Otherwise, it's just going to show up as like a basic select one, which is not helpful at all, right? You could use that, but I find you want to name every single thing you're working with just to be helping out your future self. Yeah, excellent. So what I want to do is I want to create a custom message welcoming the user to my doc and using an adjective from this adjective select list. So right now, I have it saying, welcome to the doc, Maria Marquis. You're awesome. Thanks, Coda. I really appreciate it. So this idea of pulling from controls is really helpful because if I were to say, oh, Maria is actually cool, notice how it changes. Or, oh, Maria is actually nice. Not really. I'm not nice. Maria is great. So you could choose that up here and it automatically changes that message depending on how you feel. So let's take a look at what's going on here. I'm going to right click. So now what we're doing is we're concatenating a couple different types of information. We're concatenating a formula, which is the user formula, meaning whoever's logged in, it's going to show their name. So Justin, in your doc, you see, hey, Justin Hales, you're great, right?
I do.
Mm-hmm. But I see Maria Marquis. If Karina were here, Karina would see Karina. If Just were here, Just would see Just. If Jorgen were here, Jorgen would see Jorgen. So that's the first part. We're putting the bread of the user there. Then we're adding some text. So just like we did with notes from and by, we just put it in quotation marks and notice we have the space there so that it looks like a sentence. Then we have a table reference, not a table reference, the control reference right here. And then we're including this little exclamation point at the end. So what we've done here is we've put these different pieces together, but it's using all of the same things that we talked about. Now, my favorite way to use this is inside of a customer account plan. So maybe I want to be able to see all of the information about a certain customer when I choose that customer from the drop-down menu. So I could see how much revenue that customer is providing, how many tasks do we have left working with them, who is the person who's in charge at that organization, and being able to do that. But Justin, how have you used this particular flavor of Concatenate, or what do you find to be the new opportunity that we see here by putting this control in the game, if you will?
Yeah, this is a game changer. Actually, I mean, it just reminds me actually of past life when I used Concatenate to build something. Any professional service workers here, consultants, freelancers, let us know in the chat if that applies to you. In a previous life, I was a consultant and actually had this idea. This was in Excel. Actually, it should have been in Coda. It would have been much better in Coda, but we used the Concatenate formula. What we were doing is taking a lot of data from Excel, and then we were building these reports. And the reports were pretty standard, but it would change based on the data in Excel. So what we did is we used the concatenate formula to build this report sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph. And we used concatenate, and we just used the data that we already had. And you start with one sentence and then you add another, and then you have a paragraph, and then you build on that. Pretty soon you have a page of text. If you are a consultant and you find yourself building reports and copying and pasting over and over, and it's the same format, go ahead and try to build the report using the concatenate formulas, and automate the report. It was a game changer for us. And this is just one sentence. Imagine if you had 500 sentences that you've built, and they're all dynamic based on the data that you have in a doc. I mean, that can be very powerful.
Ooh, we have a question here, which is, can you cross-reference another doc? Justin, do you want to talk a little bit about crossdoc while I close my door since my neighbor has decided to start gardening?
Absolutely. And I'm outside too. So if we hear some crazy noises, that might be coming from my end as well. Yes, crossdoc allows you to pull in data from another doc. So if you click on the Explore button at the top right of your doc, and you click Tables, you can actually pull in data from another doc, and it's called crossdoc. So yeah, there you go. You've got it, Maria. What you do is just drag in the table, and then when you change the data in one doc, it flows through to this doc. So yeah, to answer your question, you could potentially be stringing together data across multiple docs. Does that answer your question, Karina? Just let us know.
Yeah, you do have to first pull it in, because in this case, the tables are in their own Coda docs. But once you pull that table into this new one, then that Coda doc can start referencing it. Sorry, Justin, I cut you off. Go for it.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Great. Again, the psychic connection is strong. But pulling that in, Karina, is pretty straightforward. Again, you just go to Explore, you go to Tables, Crossdoc. You find the doc that you're interested in. In this case, this was a learning management system that I was just building, working with a little earlier today. And then I would pull in whichever table I want to be able to start working with. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, let's move on to exercise number 4 here. So this is actually a question that came from our community that I wanted to be able to start to work with. And what the idea was is I wanted to create in my table like a tagging system so that each row would have a unique identifying tag that we could use as part of our billing system or things like that. So what we did down here is we combined the row ID, the date, and then in this case, the category that particular table, that particular blog post has. So let's go ahead, click on that F and edit that formula. And here, what we're doing is a couple different things. But again, all of this is building off of what we've done. So you'll notice we've got these little green chips that lets us know we're dealing with columns, which we've already seen. We've got text because we see those quotation marks. And in this case, I'm just putting dashes. And the only new thing that we're looking at here is this unit called row ID. Justin, do you want to talk a bit about row ID and how you use it in the docs that you build?
Yeah, so row ID is great when you want to build like a unique identifier for each row. So let's say you have a catalog of books and you want to give each of the books a unique ID, or in this case, blog posts. Row ID is actually, each time you create a row in Coda, it assigns a row ID. Now that's not automatically visible to you, but you can actually pull that out with a formula, row ID, which you've used here. And it's different for each row. So it doesn't matter if you delete a row or add a row, each row will have a unique ID. And then you can use that just like you would any other text.
Nice. We have a great question here. Can you add if-then logic to concatenate? Justin.
Oh, yeah, the possibilities are endless here. You can. So, let's say you wanted to only show the unique ID here if the category was launch. See that column on the right there. You could absolutely include that in an if statement. I don't know if we want to do that right now, but I think we'll maybe have a.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, let's go ahead and try it. So, this is great. So if the category, let's just say if it's equal to launch. We're doing this on the fly here, but this is what's so fun about Coda is you can just kind of play around in the sandbox here. If the category is launch, let's say concatenate and include the ID. So row ID, space, dash space, doc title, and then space, dash space, author, let's say.
All right. Oh,
Perfect.
cool. All right. That's a little bit sloppy, but we're getting there. So then now let's see this. Now we just need to put the other comment, which could be, let's see, maybe we just want to make this otherwise. I could say, oops,
Yeah,
if I did my thing right. Oh
perfect.
my gosh. There we go. Also,
Oh, and
one
then
second. I got to come right back. Sorry, everybody. Having some issues here. One moment. I'll be right back.
I'll just point out while she's away. So this is great for like discovering errors in your table. So let's say you have a long list of data and you're trying to clean it up. You can give it some criteria to say, okay, if this is the case, like these are the errors I'm looking for. So I'm gonna like write a concatenate formula to like pull that out. So just like she's done here, say we know that if the category is not launched, then it's an error. So you can write yourself a fun little error message. In this case, oops. And then Maria, I think we just need to put a closed parentheses before the oops after
That
author.
right there.
Yeah, and then get rid of that. Get rid of the comma after author.
Oh yes, perfect.
So we close the concatenate, then do a comma after.
Because we need a new argument.
That's right.
Let's see, and we have an extra close parentheses, which probably is one of these, yeah?
Yes, I think so.
Let's get rid of that guy. There we go. Perfect.
Yep, I think that's right. Let's try it out.
Excellent.
Cool.
There we go. And then I think the only issue here is that we have this as, right now it's a lookup option instead of just making it a text. So let's just make it a
Correct.
text field. That's why we see
you were
that little
seeing
red.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
And I find when I'm using concatenate, this is a great example. We just did this on the fly. I find that I almost always miss a space. Like that's the most common thing for me. So I always have to go in and say, oh, let me add in a little space there. So anyway, it's always an iterative thing.
Remember, you can always just come back in, choose edit your formula. If you don't like the way that looks, like, oh, I really needed a space after the row ID here, so I'm just going to go ahead and do comma. I'm going to add, not a period. Come on. And we actually lost a little parentheses there. Great. Add a comma, and then I want to add another, dash space here. And now I've got that going on here. So you can always be making changes and adjusting based on what you see. And then if you ever see an issue, you just go back in and take a look. And like Justin said, it's usually a space, or in this case, we have an unexpected value, which, we just got an extra doc title there. There we go. And we could just make it different and move through. There. Yeah, I think that.
Looks like Karina had a quick question. The if then always be on the outside. It can be on the inside as well. If you want to do concatenate and then put the if then as one of the concatenate values, you can definitely do that as well. Cool. And yeah, using this to create skews and have it like use one acronym or another, that is a perfect use case for using concatenate. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think the one thing I would just reinforce for everybody is that everything in the Coda formula language can be used with everything else in the Coda formula language. Like it's a whole just bucket of blocks that you can put them together however you want. And they're meant to be working together. They're not meant to be by themselves. And then the other thing I would just encourage folks to do is, as you're learning the formula language, just like we did trying to solve the issue over here, just start, see what comes up. If you get an error, Coda will let you know some error messages, and poke around, right? Just keep with it. Sometimes I found that, when I was first getting started with the formula language, I started to get intimidated because I was like, oh gosh, it's this new thing and it's code, blah, blah, blah. But the more you just sit with it and go, oh, it's just, there's an extra parentheses. Oh, okay, I'll just take, get rid of that. Or like, I got a little bit long. Where's my structure? I just got to find those commas again. That being bold enough to just tinker and play, and you're going to break it and then you're going to fix it. And that's something that I think is a really helpful habit to start to develop.
Yeah, so true, Maria.
Because, you're the person in the situation. Coda is just a machine. So let's take a look at the next exercise. So now what we're going to do is we're going to introduce another building block of Coda, which is buttons. And you can use concatenate in your buttons too. So we've seen how to do it in text, tables, with a control, and now we're going to add a button in here. So this is one that it's pretty simple as far as, it's not a big fancy bells and whistles kind of thing. But I find that the what we're doing here, this idea of customizing it to meet a person's name, is something you can do to really make your docs feel more polished, feel more friendly, and feel more welcoming. So it's a small thing that I think can have a really big impact. So here we have this button, and I want to make it say, add a task for whoever the person using the button, I want it to be their name. So just like we had with the control, if you right click on a button, it's going to open up the buttons menu. Oop, I clicked on the button. I didn't right click. So I'm actually adding a task. If you right click on the button, it opens up the menu just like we saw with the control. In this case, I didn't do a good job of naming my stuff. I just called it button 1. But notice you have that ability to do the name just like the control, and then the label. This is where you say what the button says. Now, right now it's in quotes, so that tells us we're dealing with just basic text. But notice you have this option to toggle on using a formula instead. You can do that for the actions as well. So this is where we're going to want to go. We're going to want to go to the formula so we can add the concatenate formula here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the answer. Here it is. Add a task for Maria Marquis. So if I right click on this button, just like so, notice the label is now toggled into formula land. And we're just combining two things, some text because it's in quotes, and then user. So this is like exactly what we saw in the notes from today, the very first concatenate example we did, except we're just putting it in a new place so it feels a little bit more like home. Justin, what about buttons and concatenating? How do you see that working? How have you used that in the past? What are your tips and tricks for folks?
Yeah, buttons are already a way to add interactivity to your doc, and making them customized like this, because when I open this, I'll see add a task for Justin Hales, and that is it just makes it feel more personal. And when you're sharing your doc with your teammates or a client, like them seeing their name in a button is actually like a very delightful moment.
Yeah.
And so use concatenate to do that. I will point out just a small thing here that maybe some folks have been wondering, which is there's the @ sign in front of your name. And the reason why that shows up is because it's the same as when you're referencing a row in Coda. It's actually pulling the reference. So it's just like if you typed @ Maria Marquis in the canvas, you'd see that little @ sign. That's to let you know you can actually hover over that and get some more information from that. If you wanted to get rid of the @ sign, all you need to do is add a .name after the user. So if you go into the formula and do after the user, do .name, it would actually then be pulling the text piece from that reference, which is the name. And it looks like we may have lost Maria as she was making that update to the formula. Does that make sense to folks though? That even if it was, for example, the row that you were referencing, you could use the dots. And I know we've talked about that in previous Formula Fitness webinars, but the dot allows you to pull information out of the row, and so you can use that in your concatenate formula as well. So in case you were wondering why that @ sign was there, let's let her back in. Absolutely. Okay, 1 second, guys, while we have her join back in. Sorry for the glitch here. All right, let me message her 1 second. Okay, I will share my screen and we can keep going here. Hopefully we can figure out how to also get Maria back in. All right, and let me share my screen. Okay. All right. Can folks see that? I hope so. Okay, so let's come back in here. And while we're looking at that, I'm just going to see if we can. Oh, there's Maria. Hi, Maria.
Hey, sorry. Internet's just like, I know you're doing a webinar, but what if I stopped? I'll share my screen again.
Okay, great. Yeah, no worries at all. We were just
All
chatting
right. Can you
about
see the
at
screen okay,
references.
Justin?
We can, yeah. Oh, Karina wants to demonstrate the dot. Yes,
All
happy to
right.
do that.
Oh, sure. Mhm.
Okay, so Maria, did you
In this case,
catch the
just so I make
conversation?
sure I know, it's the dot name here.
Yeah, that's right.
I was trying to troubleshoot, so I was only half an ear there. But is this what we were talking about? The dot name to remove the at in this case?
That's right. Yep.
Mhm. So I'll go ahead and back it up just so we see there. So user, again, like Justin was saying, that's a reference. So it has, this at remarquee containing name, the picture, etc. So I can do name, and it'll pull in that. I could also do email, right? And then I doubt that it'll work for sure in this case, because did I get that right, Justin, based on the conversation that you were having?
That's exactly right. Yeah, and you'll see that the at reference in the preview there is actually like highlighted in blue. So that's another clue that you're looking at a reference and not just text.
There we go.
Exactly. Yep.
And notice by hovering it, this is what Justin's talking about. By hovering it, I see everything inside: the name, the email, and my picture in this case. All the things that come along for the ride with that reference. Cool. All right. Anything else on exercise 5, Justin, that we want to share around buttons, etc.? Also, so sorry that the internet was not cooperating with me. My apologies.
No, I
Don't
think
even know what happened.
this is great. I think the point here is that you can use the concatenate formula with all the different building blocks, and really it's impossible to show all the different possibilities here. But practicing it, doing some repetitions here, I think you'll start to see opportunities in your docs to use concatenate.
Mhm. Totally. Awesome. So let's take a look at the last exercise, which I think this one really brings it all together in a way that I really love. So, what we want to do is we want to create a dynamic message that we can send using the Gmail pack, which allows us to use the power of Gmail, sending emails from our Coda docs. And then we want to have a formula that shows a message and then having a button that sends the message out. So we want a message and then we want to have a button that sends the message, which is all something that's just part of how Coda works. But we're going to use concatenate to create a really custom message. So let's just take a look at the answer that we've put together down here. What we've got is let's just first take a look at kind of what's going on here structurally. First of all, we have this button that allows us to notify, and we can push this button to send this out via Gmail. But let's look at how we made this custom message here. So I'm going to go ahead, open up our formula, edit formula. Now, looking at this just at first value, like, oh, there's so much going on here. But you all know every single thing that's happened here. You've seen this before. All of the things are things you've already seen. So notice we've got lots of things in quotation marks. That just means it's basic old text. And then you've got some different values from the table. So even though this is a really long message, this is actually probably one of the most simple versions of concatenate, just combining table information and textual information. Justin, do you want to talk through what's going on here and how it relates to some of the docs you've made?
Yeah. So what we're doing is just writing a friendly message. Imagine that each of these was an email, and you could go through and type "good news" and then go in and copy the name of the author, paste it in, type some more. The doc is called, type, copy and paste the doc title. Instead, we're just using each of the columns as a variable in our message. So you write the message once, and it changes for each person here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Excellent. And then what I think is really great about what we've done here is then we have this button that allows us to just send it from this particular doc. So I don't have to even, I could just have this concatenated, then copy paste that into an email, but we actually are putting a button in that allows us to just send directly from Coda. So we don't need to be going from tab to tab to tab. So what we've done is we've got the Gmail pack. We're using it, we're sending the email from, in this case, my account. We're sending it to, again, here is a formula that all of you should be familiar with, user, so whoever that person is. And we have the subject line. You could also use concatenate here to be, like blogs from today. And in this case, we're just sending the message content from this row. And then we're also just disabling it if the message is blank. So now we can just push this button and be able to send that directly from Coda. The other thing, if you wanted to get super fancy, you could add a button up here at the, in the canvas, and you could use this button. Let's go ahead and just type / and then button. We're going to have this button when we right click it. Instead of the action being to add a task, we could actually have it push other buttons. And we can have it push the buttons that are inside of that table. So you could just send all of them at once, which is kind of fun. Justin, anything else on kind of this flow? Because I think this flow of, a dynamic row information and then a button that engages with it, I think that flow is a really helpful pattern for folks to get to know. What else would you say about this one? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to let you all in on a secret. Whenever I need to email more than 5 or 10 people the same message, I will actually do this. And so if you have a CRM, I have a little mini CRM that I keep, and whenever I need to send kind of the same information to 5 or 10 people, and I don't want to recreate the message every single time and copy and paste, I'll just spin one of these up, and when you click the button to send it from the doc, it actually just looks to that person as if you wrote this custom message. Now, I'm not trying to be disingenuous. I really care about that person and I want them to feel like I wrote them a custom message. But oftentimes I'm actually just writing that with a formula and with the concatenate formula. So it's a really great one to have when you're sending out, reports or updates, even, personal messages. I actually use a similar one for messaging family and friends on special occasions. I'll send them a little message, and sometimes it's using a formula, so you can get pretty creative with this setup.
I feel only slightly betrayed that all the emails I receive from you are not perfectly customized.
No,
but
no,
I think
not
Justin
for you.
Brings up Justin brings up a great point that one of the best ways that we can provide attention to people is by making it easy to do so. Right? Like if you have an announcement like, hey, everybody, I just, had a kid or I just got promoted. You could go through everything once in a while, but maybe you've got a list of like, these are my people. I want to make sure that they're aware of all the things that are happening in my life. You can build that out and be able to give that attention instead of like, oh gosh, I have to open up and do all this stuff. You can actually really make that happen. From a customer perspective, maybe you have a discount for people on their birthday. You could have a list of all your customers and their birthdays and then have a button that you can push to send things out for folks whose birthday it is, using filter and if and concatenate all together. Karina, you had your question about how could I make the button push all those buttons. You would just choose the push buttons action and then the column with that button inside of it. Yeah, great question. Awesome. So those were the key concatenate exercises that we wanted to share with everybody, because this allows you to see how concatenate or concatenate can come together in a lot of different parts of your doc, either just in the basic text of your doc, inside of your tables, using it to create dynamic messages based off of controls, starting to think about how it can come together and then how it might be able to then leave your doc as well. But we want to make sure we spend a lot of time on any other questions that y'all have. So if you need to see something again, if you're curious if Concatenate can solve a problem, let us know. We want to make sure that we're available for you. Also want to make sure that everybody is aware that we do have our community. So again, some of these exercises and ideas came from community posts. So please feel free to join our community. It's a great group of folks, great place to ask questions. Also a great place to kind of toot your own horn and share pride about things that you've made. We always love to see that as well. Also, the place where you can every single formula that we have, all the building blocks that you can work with, is coda.io/formulas. You can see a bunch of the other things you can start to put together. But I encourage all of you, think about these different patterns we saw, then take a look at your docs and start to think, where do I need to make a sandwich? Where might that help me either customize my lot of table information by making those little combined areas? Um, Justin, oh gosh, yes, Karina, thank you so much for letting us know that we are working on making sure that we can find a way to better email folks about what's going on without overloading people's inboxes. So I have taken your note about wanting to get more notifications via email. Our communications team is just being really sensitive to the fact that we don't want to just like blast people over and over again. The best place to know what's going on, I do post to the community. Also, you can always go to crowdcast.io/Coda HQ. That's where I post everything that's going on. I've got all of the Formula Fitness ones posted through the rest of the end of the month, early November, and I'll be adding a couple more events here today as well. So that's a good place to go and check it out. We also always make them available on our Crowdcast channel. You can watch them as a replay as well as on our YouTube channel. Yeah, but I am trying to find a better way to get it out via email too. I'm just working with folks who are like, but we don't want to spam people. So we will be finding a better way to get that out there. Yeah. Justin, as far as what are your brilliant recommendations for folks getting ready to go?
I'm sorry, getting ready to do what?
By starting to bring Concatenate into their life. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, here's what I recommend. Start simple.
Bring Concatenate. Yeah.
Okay. So I'd recommend three things for folks that want to start using Concatenate. First of all, just start playing around with it. Copy this doc, and maybe we can share this doc, Maria, to this crowd. Copy the doc and go through the exercises. Start simple. Find ways to incorporate it, in fun little ways in your doc. So maybe it's as simple as like putting something, a little message at the top of your screen, at the top of the doc that says like, "Welcome, my name. Welcome, Justin, to your doc. Today's going to be a great day," or something like that. And practice using that formula. Then when you're ready to venture into sending messages, I would recommend either using the Gmail pack or the notification action and buttons to start building messages with Concatenate. I think you'll also find a lot of use there. So work your way up to it and ping us on the community if you have questions as you're using Concatenate.
Nice. Excellent. Any other questions from folks? I think those are brilliant ideas. And I would say those can also apply to any of the Coda formula pieces that we work with, right? Just start playing, just start poking around, start simple, and then kind of just be curious. And that's a great way to start to find some of the Coda patterns that are going to be the ones that really are with you doc after doc after doc. And you can always get in touch with us if you've got questions. Yay, welcome. So glad that you're going to be joining us for everything. Fantastic. Awesome. So we've got 12 minutes. So if there's any other questions people have, please let us know. Otherwise, we wish you a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks for joining us for Formula Fitness. We've got 3 more coming over the next few weeks. We're doing data types. We're doing date and time. So thinking about how time can play out in our docs, as well as users. The doc link is just posted over there into chat. It should be set up so that y'all can copy it. Let me know if that is not the case, and I'll make sure that I set it up appropriately on the back end. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Thanks, Used. Good to see you again. All right. Well, it looks like questions have come to an end. I'll go ahead and close out for today. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you next time.